Hey everyone, welcome back to Iron Hook Angler. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. The last video that I tried making, my gimbal ended up overheating on me, so I wasn't able to record the day, and I wish I would have. It was a pretty successful day out on the water to a certain degree. I was able to submit 1 fish out of 5. Figured I'd be able to get a hold of the whole catch board thing for the 2 tournaments that I'm in. But yeah, it didn't work out too well for me on that. But it kind of leads to this video's topic and the things that I learned from that day of fishing. I've been able to go out a total of 4 times with my manta ray angler kayak, and I've absolutely loved it. It's been amazing being able to get out on the water and to do it with a Mini Cooper out of all the things to get my kayak out there, you know. So it's been nice. But so my first 3 fish that I caught throughout the day, these were, you know, I'd say within like 14s, you know, inch and to about 12 inch. The first 2 I tried measuring oops, sorry about that, on my lap. Terrible idea. Did not work well. The third one I tried to put my measuring board inside my kayak, you know, the head of it, and then to the end of it, you know, resting, you know, on top of the right side of my kayak. And that seemed to help. So now, you know, the whole thought process there when I was trying to figure it out on my own was, well, either they'll flop into the kayak or they'll flop to the right. And that holds true. But anyway, like I lost my third one off to the right of to the right of my kayak, and then I keep fishing. I end up landing a 15.5-inch bass. I was pretty happy about that, and that one I was able to submit. But like I finally got the picture, I got it back in the water, and then when I looked at my photo, one, it was upside down. My photo was, and the mouth was slightly open, just a little bit, and they docked me a 1/2 inch on it. And I was like, whatever, at least I got 1 fish submitted out of the 4 that I caught that day. And then I was fishing some lily pads, just the edge of them, with a Yamamoto Cinco 5-inch black blue flake. And it wasn't a really cloudy day, just slightly cloudy, a little bit of wind, and they were just hitting it. And it's a clear lake too, that I was fishing. But anyway, I was working the edge of that lily pad, and just it gets hammered, and it starts dragging out line. I'm like, oh, I kind of tighten it down, and I'm reeling it in, and she wraps up in some lilies, but like obviously, like I'm slowly pulling the bass towards me. I'm getting into the lily pads, and I kind of move the lily pads out of the way, and like this huge mouth. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like already like freaking out. Like this is the biggest bass I've ever caught, and I lifted her up and got her on the board, and the most mellow fish out of all of them I caught that day, just sitting there on my board, 19.75 inches in this little lake that's 7 minutes away from my home in northern Wisconsin, Chelsea Lake it was. And I'm like, you know, like my hands are doing this, just super happy. I go to grab my phone, and I'm still thinking that I have to go on to Fishing Chaos app to take the photo to submit it, right? And this time I'm facing the sun, and I'm getting this like wonky glare from my screen protector. It's like multicolor, and I tried pulling up the Fishing Chaos app, wrong app, back out of it, do it again, wrong app again. Do it for the 3rd time, and it was a charm. Got it to the camera screen. As I was lifting up my camera to go take that photo, my left hand just slightly lifts up on that bass, and it just flops. and flops the second time right back into that lake before I could even get a photo out. And I sat there, I'd say for a good 30 minutes in that boat, just sitting there, dead silent. I didn't cuss. I was like happy, excited, and bummed out all at the same time, almost like a bad breakup. I was happy that I got to be with that person. Super sad to see him leave. You know? But anyway, I get home that night. I couldn't let it go. I'm on YouTube, like looking for any tips, tricks, whatever I could find to have a smoother process, right? And an individual that I follow that does tournament fishing, I reach out. It's like, hey, if you could help me out with some tips, that would be awesome. You don't have to answer this. If another one of your followers does tournament fishing, has any tips or tricks about this scenario, I'd highly appreciate it. And somebody reached back. And so now how I handle that whole entire catch board process, I made a lot of changes. And so when I actually hook into my fish, right, and get it on board, for whatever reason that day, I never used my net, right? Now I use my net for every bass that I catch in the kayak. I net it, bring it on board, plop my fishing rod into one of my fishing rod holders, release a little bit of line so that way I have some room to work with. I unhook the fish, get the fish back in the net, and I literally will try not to get some sun glare, but I'll lean it off to the right side of my boat with the bass in it, and I'll get it in just enough to where it can get some water to get the wiggles out, right? Now, the beautiful thing about this is it treats it like a live well. One, it allows the bass to get the wiggles out, it allows you to get the jitters out, and it gives you plenty of time to be able to get set up, right? So then what I end up doing, I have my catch board underneath my seat, and I kind of made my own makeshift, I'll show it to you, identifier holder for my catch board. But so the bass is there, I'm kind of keeping an eye on it at the same time, right? Make sure, like, if it does jump, you know, I can kind of just slightly lean and it's enough to keep the bass in there. And it's just way nicer. And anyway, so I get my catch board positioned. I got my bass in the live well, per se. And check this little identifier card out, holder that I made for my catch board. I'm not cheap, I'm just broke. So I made do with what I had. Took part of pen, cut it in half, found some old safety glasses, made it work, tape, baseball card, protector sleeve, burnt the ends, make it waterproof because I was having an issue with sometimes water, because I had it on like a lanyard before with it open and it was around my wrist, and as I was kayaking or paddling, water would kind of dribble in there and bleed out my identifier card. So now that's not an issue. Anyway, so then I take my catch board, I simply clip it onto the bottom, and she works quite nice, I'd say. Gives me enough play, you know, down to the 8-inch, all the way up to the 17.5. Depending on the size of bass that I have going on. And anyway, I get it in there. Right? It's all set up. Bass is still hanging out, getting its wiggles out. I'll go grab my phone, which I have it on a phone mount, and I'll set it in the nook right there, because I cross my legs when I'm doing all this. And then once I have all this set up, and after, of course, I wet the board, and I'll get my hands wet, Then I'll go ahead and take my bass out, and I'll use my left hand to get it out of the net. Once I get it out of the net and I'm holding on to it, I take my net and slowly kind of like saw it up underneath there, and I get it underneath my foot peg. I don't know if you can kind of see that. And then I kind of make like a goalie net. So when they jump to the right, guess where they're going? They ain't going back in the lake no more. They're going into that dang net. So that way I get a second, possibly even a third chance. But having them in the net hanging out while you're getting prepped calms them down, gives them time to calm down to where you can easily work with them. It's night and day difference. Now, then it kind of sits behind my, I don't know if you can see it here. Here's my phone holder. So the net kind of just sits right along there, and it's held in place. It's not going anywhere. Then I'll take my phone, and here's the other trick that I learned, is know how to quickly access your camera without having to physically enter into it, right? So for me, I was able to modify it and set it up to where it's the double power button. I just hit it, there's my camera, I'm ready to take a photo of the bass. I put it back down into where my legs cross, and then I put that down, I grab the bass by the tail with my right hand, and I go to set it on the board. That way I can kind of use that tail to help push it up against the front of the board and make sure its mouth is closed. Once I know it's in position, then I go ahead and put my hand down on the bass, remove my right hand, grab my phone, and take that darn picture. Then what I do is I put the bass back in the net, back in the water, to double check everything, right? So while it's hanging out in the live well again, I'm going back into my photo, making sure that my hand isn't, under the gill plate, that the mouth was closed during the photo, and all of that, right? If everything's good, then obviously, once I know the bass is ready to go, I just simply dip it in the water, let it go. If my photo's wonky and I feel I need a better photo, well, then I redo the whole process over again. And it is an absolute game changer when it comes to working with the Ketch board. That's what I got. So hopefully those of you that are thinking about going into tournament fishing and just doing like those year-longs or monthly challenges, I mean, even your 1 day, 2 day tournaments, it's a game changer, So anyway, that's my tip for today. And my next video, I'm going to talk about hooks and how important making sure your hooks are sharp so you catch more bass. See you guys next time.